1, 2. That's right. It's me, Abe Duque. 1, 2, 1, 2. Are we ready for this, everybody? Are we ready? Just a few more seconds to start the show. In the meantime, I'll make sound effects with my voice. 1, 2, 1, 2. Come on, everybody. Just a few more seconds left. Yeah. Okay, obviously I set up a reverb device today. Yeah. Let's not do that. How are we doing, everybody? So let me just sorry I took down the wrong level here. So how are we doing, everybody? Obviously I set up some reverb, but that was pretty silly, wasn't it? Anyway, everybody, welcome back. I'm so happy to be here. All week I'm thinking about this. All week I was thinking about how to make it better. I set up reverb. I set up a bunch of other things that maybe we can use today. I'm really getting into this whole streaming tech side of things. My name is Abe Duque. You're watching 343 TV. We stream here every day at 1 o'clock. We come from a school called 343 Labs, where I'm an instructor at. We teach many things all about production, anything to do with mixing, mastering, Ableton, Logic, sound design for music producers, vocal production. Am I missing anything? Probably, but music theory, of course. And we have not classes. I call these classes, but they're streams that go on a daily, dedicated to all these topics. Today I call this basics or production basics. But yesterday we had Max doing his Theory Thursday show, and so on. Tomorrow we'll have John Selway with his show, which is a techno show that he does called. It used to be on Tuesdays, so he used to call it Techno Tuesdays, and now it's just Taco Saturdays, or no, Techno Saturdays. Anyway, seeing that you guys are coming into the chat, that's really nice. People are here. I see Samuel is in here. Let's see. Samuel was saying earlier in the chat, he was here early, and he was saying yes, he really needed a show like today because he's been wondering about this topic. And today's topic, by the way, if you don't know, it's all about EQ. Equalization, EQ. It's a straight talk about EQ. I wanted to, really just kind of lay out some things that perhaps you didn't even know about EQ. Yeah, so plenty of time to get to that. But let me see if there's anything in the chat. So we have Jonathan Rodriguez back again. Hey, everyone. Sarah T is here. Everything sounds super crisp and clear. Yay, right on. Thank you. I think you hopefully you're talking about me. Let's see. How's my reverb doing? Let me try my reverb again. Hello? No, not that's not it. How about this? Hello? Should I do the whole show like this? That would be dumb. Okay. But sometimes for effect I can turn on the reverb. Anyway, so let's see. I wanted to try a crazy thing today. Now, I don't know how much and if we can actually implement this, but if we can, this would be awesome. I have so this software that I use for streaming, it allows me now to just send links out, and then you could come on and just share your camera and be like an instant guest. So I was thinking, if anybody out there wants to just come on and hang out, maybe you could hit us up with your email in the chat. And Thomas, who's monitoring the chats here, will maybe reach out to you and maybe send you a link, maybe ask you a little bit about, maybe just reach out saying, I want to talk about whatever, maybe there's a question, or maybe you just want to hang out. We could try that. I've given out the link to a couple of people already. Maybe they will decide to pop in. I'm up for anybody popping in at any time. I don't care. It's just, to me, this is a visit with you guys. And for me to make it, I've been trying to, be really in touch with what you guys are doing. I don't want to be like just talking about my subject matter for the day and just, the dealing with that way. I wanted to like make this a interactive sort of conversation and a visit with you guys that we have weekly. So trying to think of many ways of doing it, but this way with the video would be awesome. Let's see who else is in the chat. Mage Prometheus says hi. Abe, Danny in UK. Hello. Let's see. Robert Dharma, of course, would one of these streams be without this person? Regine Siller, I don't know how to pronounce that. Hi, Abe. Thomas 343. All right, so let's get with it. And once again, if you're interested in talking about anything in particular when it comes to EQ, today's subject is EQ. Maybe if you're a little shy and you don't want to come on camera and talk to the whole world, about what you want to ask, maybe you could just type it into the chat. I'm monitoring the chat constantly, and I want to be able to get you that answer, because sometimes there are holes of information that you don't have, and it really kind of it's important for us to something as basic as EQ to have it kind of really understood in full. Okay, so what is EQ? So I guess it stands for equalization. Back in older days, EQs came of certain flavors, and there were different types of EQ, and we can discuss all the different types of EQs. We certainly will. But now, these days, where you guys are mostly working inside the box, if you're working in a DAW, like let's say Ableton or Bitwig, which today I've decided to use Bitwig because we started this whole show with Bitwig. We did a few shows with Bitwig, and then I moved off of it and went on to Ableton, and now I want to be back on Bitwig again. Logic as well, they have every one of these DAWs has something like an EQ. The thing about it is, though, the thing about EQ is that EQs are not just EQs in most of these devices that you get. You get actually a combination of different devices, and it's usually two. And the devices are EQs and filters. And EQs and filters are not the same. They're definitely not the same. They behave differently. They achieve what they do by different means, which is very important to note, because if you don't know what is actually happening with the EQ or the filter, you might make a mistake in the way you apply it. Now, let me just start out from the top, and I'll just make a statement. EQ is a function of amplitude. So EQ means we work with the volume, let's call it volume for lack of a better term, which is amplitude, the energy that it's required to make it louder. EQ will boost and cut, or not cut, but boost and lower that level. And in certain different patterns that you might have. You have a lot of them. We'll get into them in a bit, the typical patterns that you may have. And now the second thing that is included in EQ is usually filters, and filters are not a function of amplitude. They're a function of phase. So now, with that said, I'm going to turn to the chat and see what's going on in there, see if you guys are saying or talking about anything in particular. And let's see, Roller8 says hi from Los Angeles. And Passion Fruit is asking, is a brick wall dangerous? Especially, maybe if you run into one. What we mean, I guess is meant by a brick wall is there's these new patterns that are given to you for filters that offer a very super steep, such a steep curve in a filter, and meaning the aggressivity of it is so high that it really cuts very much in a very small part of the spectrum. Not dangerous if you know what you're doing with it. So let's see. What else is going on? We're going to get into all that later. I'm going to try to explain as much as I can. So I'm trying to talk fast to get through all this today because we have a lot to talk about. So Samuel says, why do people remove low end if it doesn't affect the track? That's another thing we're going to make sure to cover. Why do people remove low end? Removing low end can certainly be a way of clearing up some of the mud, for sure. Could you describe phase, please? Okay. Wow, we're getting a lot of these questions, and I better start answering them quickly. A 90-degree cut. Yes, that's what a degree. That's what a brick wall would be. Phase is when two opposite waveforms are playing together. Phase, well, actually, phase is not when two opposite waveforms are playing together. It's actually when two of the same waveforms are playing out of time, out of phase, meaning, say you have, this is a sine wave. Let's say this is the top of a sine wave. And I have a copy of the sine wave, which will be here. And if I play these together along on the timeline and they're just stacked right on top of each other, they're exactly the same, what you're going to get is two in-phase sine waves, which are going to just be double the amplitude. It's not going to be a big problem at all. But the problem comes is when the two in-phase, I'm trying to line these up correctly. It's hard with the camera going one way and my hand going the other. But the two in-phase sine waves, having one moved off time so that the peak of it is corresponding with the trough of it. So the bottom and the top correspond because of the time shift. And that means it's a phase shift in time. So when they're out of phase, that's when the problem comes. When the two identical waveforms are out of phase, that's when we get the problem. Sorry, I couldn't do this any better than my hands, but I should have probably pulled up a whiteboard or something to kind of explain that. But that's what phase is. Phase or phase is anything together in phase. When you're DJing, you look at the two turntables, and when they're playing together, or the two CDJs, when they're playing together, they're playing in phase. If they're out of phase, then they cause problems. All right. Let's see. Do we have any other questions coming in? I want to keep on addressing these questions as fast as I can. What is phase invert? I see that a lot of an option of the utility gain. Yeah. So phase inverting would be, so if you have these together on top, or now that's phase, they're in phase, there's no problem. But if you have a problem where one is out of time, meaning the peak and the trough are meeting and they're out of phase, well, what you could do is phase invert, meaning reverse the polarity of it so that the wave turns around and now the peak and the trough are back. They're back in phase. It's back in phase because the alignment it gets back together again, because they were completely oppositely aligned before, and once you invert the phase, they're back in full alignment or back in phase again. And that's why we use that. We use that a lot with like when you're recording, say, some drums or a snare, let's say, with some microphones. You have one microphone at the top, right? That's usually what records the top of the skin. And usually you'll get a microphone that will be on the bottom. And if you place the microphone at where you might think it's just right under the drum, what you might end up with is a snare sound recorded by two microphones that might be out of phase. Why? Because this one catches the sound as the drumstick strikes the skin immediately. But the other one, the sound has to travel down this way, and it takes a millisecond or two to get there. It's super fast, but not fast enough to avoid a phase misalignment. And when that happens, we end up with a situation where you play both recordings together, and they cancel each other out, and they sound deader than when you play them by themselves. They sound less lively. So what do? You flip the phase on the one that's, on either one, it doesn't matter, and suddenly maybe they come back into alignment. Since phase is just a timing difference, and it's just unfortunate timing, because you go enough in time away from something, and let's say you go enough in time away from something, and it'll be out of phase. But if you keep on going and in time, you'll get back into phase. So it's just you're just unfortunately misaligned in time, and the waves are out of phase. All right, so let's see what we got going on here. Let's see. Phase invert is better described. Polarity invert, correct. Hey, Chris says Max Wild. Max Wild is here. If you guys don't know, Max has declared himself my competitor. He has a show on Thursdays, and he's down to take me down to see who has more viewers, more likes, more subscribers. And for that, guys, could you help me out here? Could you hit the like button just to kind of show Max what we're talking about and who's really the king or something? I'm just kidding. If you don't like what you see, you could also hit the dislike button. I'm cool with that. But it'd be really cool to see you guys just kind of smash that like button right now and give Max a you know what. Anyway. All right, so here we go. Jonathan Rodriguez says, in an earlier live stream, you talked about phase cancellation. Does it also come under the same topic? Yeah, same. Phase cancellation is the same. So what happens is when a sine wave is out of phase, we and let's say two of them, two of them, when they're in phase, they play double the amplitude. When they're out of phase, they cancel each other out. It's like positive and negative numbers at that point. It's like, what's positive 5 plus negative 5 is 0. It just ends up nothing. That's what phase cancellation is. And Max wants me to play the blues scale. Sorry, there's a show on Thursdays called Theory Thursdays with a very beautiful young man there who teaches you all about that, and you can go and watch that. Abe, the King of Queens. Yes, I am in Queens. I am in Hollis, Queens. Passion Fruit says, Max, you're just a medley of Abe's best techniques. Okay, right on. All right, everybody. We're going all the way into phase, but that's cool because we need to understand phase in order to understand what a filter does. So a filter is going to be phasing out stuff. So let's switch to my DAW and let's have a look at what's going on. And before I do, let me just remind you, you're watching 343 TV. We stream every day at 1 o'clock. Please join us. Please hit the subscribe button. We're trying to get to 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year. I know it sounds like a lot, but we were trying to get 1 million. We're right now at 5.45K. We have a little bit to go, but I think we can do it, guys. So tell everybody, tell your mom, tell your grandma, tell your sister, tell your brother, tell all your friends to come on, watch the show, and subscribe to the show. And don't forget to hit the bell notification because that'll let you know when stuff is going down. You don't want to miss anything. So Max wants to throw off this thing, asking me, how can you explain the importance of mixing in mono? The importance of mixing in mono is, it's just a great for a reference, just because a lot of things, a lot of distractions go away when you're mixing in mono, meaning when you listen to all your information in one channel. The other thing that's happening there is that you can understand what would happen, say, at a bookstore, where if you had one speaker on all the way at the beginning of the bookstore and another speaker at the end of the bookstore, and you walk to the one side or the other, you only hear one speaker going on. So you want to hear how things are happening as they come out of one speaker. That's why it's a great thing to reference to mono. All right, so I'm gonna stop looking at your questions and kind of deal a little bit with the topic of the day, because we're supposed to have straight talk about EQ right now. So let's go do that. Let's jump into my my DAW here. So let's see. There we go. All right, so we're using Bitwig today. Let me just come in here and. How can you tell if stuff is phasing? Well, it disappears. So let me give you a cool thing. I'm just gonna get right to the craziness here. So let me grab, and Bitwig, there's a cool new thing called the polygrid, which lets me polysynth maybe. No, polygrid. Let's go polygrid. So in the polygrid now, I can come in here and just develop whatever I want. So I have a triangle waveform. I'm going to lower that volume of that. It's a little loud. I want to switch that out to a sine wave. Sine waves you should be working with, because sine waves are maybe the most simplest thing that anybody could ever work with. They're actually every sound you've ever heard is made up of sine waves. So let's go to an oscillator and let's switch out the triangle for a sine wave here. So now we have a sine wave, and then let's go back to this and let's double this so that we can play it double. So let me arm both of these, and now what I got is two sine waves which are playing in phase right now because they're right on top of each other. So I could probably have a look at that if I group these guys together, and G, and on the group itself I would put maybe a spectrum analyzer. So spectrum analyzer. Spectrum just show us what's going on in here. So let's get these guys armed again, and here we have that. So that's our sine wave there. Now I want to take one of these guys, so I'll take this one here, and I want to add an EQ to it, and I'm going to just perform a little parlor trick here, and then I'll let you guys ask all the questions you want about it, because this is the crux about why understanding that EQ and phase, and filtering, with their two different ways of handling the job, are definitely not the same, and you better know what's going on. So I'm going to add an EQ in here. Let's see which EQ we have. Let's add the CQ, I don't know, 5. That would do, I guess. And let's grab the EQ5 and let's turn this into a low pass 24. Actually, the other EQ I think has a little more. I'm going to make it more aggressive. I'll try both, but let's see. And just these windows that you guys can't see because of this software I'm using, so I gotta move windows around. So let's see, EQ, and let's try the EQ plus. That's another one there. So I got two EQs going on. I'll turn one off and we'll look at that one, and we'll get something going here, and we'll do a high cut or at 48 dB. So we have this EQ on one of the channels. Both of them are playing the same thing. They're playing exactly the same thing. If I turn one off and turn one on, what you get is double the amplitude. See? Okay. The other one does not have any EQ on it. This one does. So playing both of them. While that's happening, I'm going to lower. Now, this is where the sound is, right here. This is the fundamental. Now watch what happens as I get closer to the fundamental. Just before the fundamental comes through, you should still be hearing stuff here, but you don't, because the way that filtering works is that it phases out what's happening just around the cutoff. So everything to this side has been phased out of existence, but there's a little bit of a phase vortex still occurring right here. Let's try it with the other one. Let's see what happens with the other one. Same story. This is not as steep of it's definitely not a brick wall, and I'll come in with it all the way, and just before it gets a lot lower. And now the way that I can show you that this is actually not working to filter it out, like this one's really doing it. The more steep it is, the more you're going to notice it. With a brick wall, this will be completely obvious. Watch what happens when I turn one off. Ready? It comes back. Together, they're there. You could see the sound, but you can't really hear it. Turn one off, any one of them, and they're not canceling each other out. So this is what's happening in a filter in your EQ device. You don't know this because you think, well, all kind of the same, and you're just molding the sound with it, and nothing is a problem. But what happens is with filters inside of EQ, you can have a problem because correlated material on another track, for example, could be totally affected by what you do with a filter in the track that you're working on. So if you have a snare and you're filtering that snare, and you've recorded that snare with like 3 microphones, and you're just taking one microphone and filtering it and getting close to where that sound is, you're probably going to be affecting correlated material in that other snare, and then that snare, because you decided to use the filter, that snare kind of died a little bit, and you're like, well, what's going on here? I don't get it. Wait a second, I got to do this now. Mind blown. Sorry, let me look at what's going on in the chat. So let's see. Sabrina is here. Yeah, I invited Sabrina to come on and chill with us. If anybody wants to come on, you can put your email in the chat. Max, you can get the link from Thomas if you want. Thomas has the link. If you just want to come in and pop in and just say hello to everybody, that would be really nice, Max. If not, no problem, no pressure. I know you just did your show yesterday, but it would be really nice to have you come in. Let's see, what else? You got Bitwig looking pretty sexy. Yes, just like you, Max. Let's see, Mage Prometheus says the sign and your voice together are causing clipping. Yeah, I'm sorry. I got to be more mindful of that. Maybe I should just lower the levels of both a little bit, and maybe that will be... So WTF says passion fruit. Hi from Germany, says Thorsten. Hello, Thorsten. I am in New York, but Max is in Berlin. As he says, hey, Thorsten, I am in Berlin, and we got some good viewership going on today. I'm very, I'll come in for, yeah, come on in, Max, come on in. It'd be lovely to see you in here. Great to see the viewership is really up. I'm really happy to see how many people are joining and watching at the same time. Like I said, this thing makes my week. It really kind of puts the cap on the bottle for me, puts the cherry on the ice cream of my life to have you guys, visit with me each week and let you guys kind of, let me talk about all the things that I love to talk about. The thing about this is that I love to talk about this, and not many people let me talk about it. If I went to my wife and I tried to talk about EQ and phasing and filtering, she would just tell me to go take the garbage out. And so now, so this is a way to get me happy for the week. Thorsten, I come from Bavaria and the big mountains. All right, Bavaria. Welcome. Germany too. CK is in Germany as well. Very nice. Very nice. If you guys, again, I ask you again, hit the like button if you like what you're seeing, and from time to time, if you hate it, hit the dislike button as well. All right, let's get back in there. So yeah, really crazy thing here now to understand. Once again, I am playing this. They are playing full on, but you do not hear them because I have one filter that has come too close to this fundamental. Now, if I turn just this one off and you hear this one all by itself, it's fine. It doesn't really affect that sine wave too much. What happens is, though, as soon as I turn the other one on, it's out of phase and we have a problem. So it's a little louder. Let me turn this up a little more. It's a little louder with it. It's not loud at all because it's off right now. As soon as I turn one of them off, the sound comes back because it's not being canceled by the other one. So that's the deal with filters, and this is happening all the time. So filters are a function of phase. All the filters, and what are the filters? So let's look at what this might offer us as a choice. So we have low cut. We have anything you might see a low cut or a high cut. Those are filters, and then the notch would be a filter as well. The ones that are not filters are things like the shelves. So let's go to another channel now. I have some other stuff in here. Let's see. I have some loops in here. So just wanna. pick one that I could deal with here. All right, so I'm going to add EQ to that. So I'll go ahead and add, I don't know which EQ to add to that. Let's see, let's try the EQ 5. Let's see what that happens there. Okay, so, hey, Mr. Kingston is here from Rockaway Park, New York, every time. All right, so here we have some sound that's kind of loud right now, coming in, and we have a few points, a few patterns here. And let's choose one here. Let's get a low shelf. So the low shelf, it's called a low shelf because it looks like this is a shelf, and you could bring stuff up or down. Okay, and that is not a filter. Now, a filter, the way you could, the telltale sign of a filter. Let's get a filter on the opposite end. Let's get a high pass. I mean, a low pass filter. The way you know it's a filter is it goes down and it keeps on going down. It keeps on going down off the screen. It goes down to, you know, at this slope all the way down as far as it can go. And the filter has no choice but to phase, and that's it. And what's being phased is anything beyond this side of the slope. With a shelf, you're just raising or lowering the amplitude of what's happening here as you pull this up or down. Okay, and so you have filters on both sides and shelves on both sides. So you have a high shelf and you have a low shelf. High shelf, low shelf. And these, believe it or not, you have been using high shelves and low shelves all your life. All your life you've been using these. Now you say, where? How? I just heard about it when I started to work with my DAW. Well, if you've ever worked a stereo system that had treble and bass on it, treble and bass are high shelf and low shelf. If you've ever worked a car stereo system that had bass and high or treble, that's a high and a low shelf. And basically the middle stays in the same place, and you raise the low or lower the low and raise the high and lower the high to get the balance you want. Everything stays relative to the middle of the frequency there. The mid frequencies don't get touched. That's why you don't typically see a high on a stereo system. You'll see just mid and low. Sometimes you might have a mids on there, but in most stereos or in most old home stereos, all you had was a high, treble they would call it, and bass. Treble and bass. Okay, wait, somebody said mind blown again. Every time someone says mind blown, I gotta do this. Mind blown. All right, Max, I'm still waiting for you. Let's see what's going on here. See if anybody has been trying to get in. I gotta open all my windows here. And nope, nobody has tried to come in yet. So yeah, if you guys are wanting to jump in, it would be very nice. I can handle more than just one. I can handle a few people at the same time. Let's say, I have to say this again, we're at about the halfway point. We are 343. Now, right now you're watching 343 TV, and we are here every day at 1 o'clock, including Sundays. If we're not live on Sundays, we'll have reruns, but we're here on Sundays too. We're here every day, and mostly at least 6 days a week we have fresh new content. And we're just here talking about anything you guys want to talk about. We are here trying to get you guys informed, get you guys to have, demystify things for you, to help you guys on your path, on your journey to making better music. I'm here every Friday with, sometimes with some guests, sometimes not. But today I'm waiting for Max to come in, and hopefully he might come in. But yeah, but regardless, I'm here every Friday, at least till the end of the year. At the end of the year, we'll probably take a little break for, pause for season 2 to be over, because this is season 2. And then I don't know how long it'll be then, and then we'll start season 3 again. But we are here every day, and this is amazing. We have a school as well, and if you like what you see, if you like the personalities that you see here, and the information that you get here, and the way that it's fed to you, you can come and take some classes with us. We have classes ranging all these topics. and covering all these topics. And we really would be happy to see you guys on the internet. We have classes on the internet. We have also classes in person. We have classes in person in New York. We have classes in person in Berlin, which is on fire right now. As far as I heard today, there are about 7 classes going on at the same time right now. It's pretty crazy. So you can come and take any type of topic. We just started the Berlin school not too long ago, but now it seems to be up and running and fully functional with all the curriculums that we have available. So when you need a little more, come and visit us in person if you're in Berlin or if in New York. And if not, oh, look, somebody's wanting to join. If not, let me just finish my topic. If not, just come in and join us on the internet. So, yeah, Max is joining us now. Hold on. It's a good time to talk to Max. Hold on. Let me bring Max in as guest number 1. You can be guest number 1, Max, and I'll throw you in my guest number 1 slot. Hello, Max. How are you? Max, your mic is off. Maybe I have you off, but I think you're muted. You can unmute yourself if you're able to do that. Just in the little window when you come in, when you write your name. Let's see, did you write your name in there? No sound from Max. Perhaps. Oh, maybe hold on. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. Just give me a second. Just keep on trying to sing or something, Max. Max was promising me that he would come in and play his saxophone at one point. But I don't know. Is that going to happen, Max? All right, hold on. Just sound levels. Maybe I have you muted on the sound levels. So interview is not muted. You should be on and ready to go. Let's see. Oh, Selway's coming in. Selway's in there now. Now we have a second person. I guess I'm going to have to turn this into another type of situation here where I'll let Max be on my first one.
I see myself.
All right, you're in now, and John will be.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah. You're. I think we can hear you now. Let me just
testing.
This is new tech here, so we're kind of just getting it right. But I think we'll get it right pretty soon.
Oh, good.
Let's see.
The count is up.
Okay, so let's see. There should be one person, and there should be another.
Give us a thumbs up if you can hear me.
There's John, and let's see. I have you're as a guest. You should be on slot 1 there. Okay, here we go. So now I have John and
oh, wow!
So
there we go. Party.
Yeah, it's
John's
a big
got
party.
a green screen.
Yeah.
Hey, John.
Hi. How are you?
How's it going? Long time no see.
All right, so right now, this is great because we were just talking about 343 and what 343 is and what we're trying to do here. We're really excited. We've got a big team and a lot of work is going into this whole 343 TV effort. And John is one of our instructors, and so is Max, but Max is also a founding father of 343. He is maybe going to tell us a little more about what we got going on in Berlin because he's in Berlin right now. I'm just telling you what I've heard. What's happening actually in Berlin right now?
Well, reporting live from Berlin. Here's Max, your reporter, Max Wild. So, yeah, we opened in Berlin in July with just 1 class. And since then, as of today, we have 7 classes and 30 students, roughly that. Yeah, no, we're really kind of lucky to be at this amazing studio complex, Riverside Studios, where there's about 50 to 60 really high-profile, accomplished musicians, artists that have their permanent studios there. So we're part of that community. We also get to use some of their studios, and we have our classrooms right kind of next to that. So it's a really cool community. It's right in the center of Berlin, right where all the clubs are, right by the Watergate, right by the Berghain, Universal Studios. We're in the same building as Beatport, Panport, a lot of big agencies and record labels and all that. So yeah, we're just really having a good time here in Berlin.
All right. Yeah, some people are saying your voice is having a super loud edge. La Nouvelle says this. Super loud with edge. Can we put a high cut shelf on it? kind of relaying back to the subject. So John is also with us. You've seen John here. John is a kind of a regular on my show. I wish I could go on John's show, but every time John is on doing his show, I have a class. Maybe my class will be over in a few weeks, and maybe I'll be able to come in and bug you on your show.
Yeah, we got to work that out.
Yeah, because
I agree.
Yeah, it'd be hard to do while I'm still teaching a class, and Saturdays and Sundays are the big days for me for teaching. So, but John is responsible for the. You do sound design for music producers. Did I get that right?
Something like that. Yeah. It's synthesis and sound design for producers is the name of the course.
And you also teach Ableton from time to time. And
oh yeah.
And actually, you're capable of teaching pretty much anything, right?
I suppose. I think Max is our music theory expert for sure. But I dabble.
But does Selway play the sax? That's the question.
I definitely don't. But if you want to,
we don't know that you play the sax.
I have a violin over here. Like we could do that.
We don't know that you actually play the sax, Max, because you never actually pulled it out and played. So, are you committing? Right now to come in on my show and play a little number for the whole?
I'm gonna need
community.
a little more lead time for that than that. Yeah.
Well, not today, but let's say like next show or something like that.
Oh yeah.
All right, you've heard it here, everybody. Everybody, you've heard it here. Max is committed to come in, bring his saxophone, and play us a sexy number.
I know you need my help to get your numbers up, so I'll do anything.
Well, all right. And John has agreed to accompany him on the violin. Is that right, John?
Yeah.
With
his
okay.
green screen.
I could do that.
Well, look, thanks, guys. Really, thanks, guys, for coming in today. I just wanted to. This is new tech that actually got delivered for both. I use Ecamm, and John uses OBS, and both OBS and Ecamm have this new capability now of being able to do kind of an interview platform inside of the software. And it's the first time I'm trying it like this. And actually, I tried it last week, but on the fly, the way that we're doing it right now, this is the first time. And I want to make it available for you guys to like come on and be able to do your thing whenever you want. So, guys, thank you again. And John, if you want to hang out, John, you can. If you want to also step away, like Max seems to have done, we can do that as well.
I got a couple minutes. I can just be like the devil on your shoulder.
Yeah, you can be that sometimes. That's true. Let me just get rid of that empty slot there where Max is no more. All right, so we are now at 43 or 41 past the hour. I don't have two computers that have different times on them, which confuses me because I thought they were both synced to the internet time. Anyway, let's see what's going on in the chat. Let's see. Robert Dharma says, Angel and Devil on the shoulders. That's right.
See?
Angel on one side. No, you're the devil, John. You're the devil,
That's
John. Right. And, well, my angel left. Anyway, let's see. Pastor's Fruit says that they drink the blood of their enemies while they're doing 90-degree cuts. Okay. Max on the sax coming soon. Sorry, hit the wrong button, got kicked out. Oh, Max is coming back. Oh, my angel's coming back. Max, you can come back anytime you want, buddy. Let's put you back on. Oh, I've somehow gotten rid of the overlay that has him on there. Let's go to my DAW, which in my DAW I could bring you back in. Let's see. Here is my DAW, and here is guest number 1 as Max, and this is guest number 2. This is Selway. And this is how I've laid it out now in my say hello. This is a lot of fun. I feel Brady Bunchish right now. If you guys don't know, that was a show from the late 70s that had this kind of layout for their opening. Okay, so let's get back to straight talk about EQ. So did you guys know that EQ had 2 different types of devices in there, John and Max? I
Absolutely.
Suppose, yes, I bet you did. Both of you. So, and this is something that really kind of escapes people because nobody ever really thinks about it that far. But there are implications to the fact that that we have mid. I mean, sorry, not mid. I was going to talk about mid-side next, but that we have filters and EQs kind of combined into one thing that we call the EQ. All right. Remember, just to run it down for you again, EQs are your your shelves, the high and the low shelf, your parametric EQ, which would be the bell shape thing that you can get going on. That's also EQ. And I think that's it. Am I missing something, John?
No, I mean, yeah, you're differentiating between, like, say, like a low pass or a high pass filter and what you're doing with a shelf, you know, and how they're doing
and a parametric
things.
EQ like a bell
Right.
as well. And
Yeah,
shelf,
so
and
far
then
so
there's a
good.
notch filter as well. There's a filter that allows for you to like notch things out. And again, look, have a look at the screen here, and you see this is set up in a way that, you know, there's a bell action here going on, where, you know, we can pull stuff down. The bell is cool because you could pull it up or pull it down and create all these shapes. But if I were to turn this into a notch, it would be all the way down. It was absolute. So these things are absolute when they are set up this way with a notch. The notch is not a bell. A lot of people might think they're interchangeable, but they're really not, because the notch really goes to infinity and beyond, all the way down. If you switch that back to a bell, you'll notice, which one did I have as a bell? Hold on. If you switch that back to a bell, you will notice that you can pull things down, but you can pull them down, you know, as much as you want, and then you could also pull things up. So you could add amplitude or remove amplitude, which is the big difference. I don't use notch filters that often. John, you're a sound design guru. When is a notch filter a good thing?
Well, using it as an effect, like, you know, if you sweep a notch up and down, you hear the phase shifting going on, and it's a similar, not exactly the same, but it has a similar effect of like a phaser effect, which is related to this. It's it's filters out of phase with each other being modulated, and then the frequency is modulated up and down. So yeah, I've used notches creatively where I want a certain sort of sweeping shape. I might, you know, apply some kind of automation or an LFO to the frequency of a notch filter. And you'll see some more complex synths that have lots of different types of filters built into them will have notch filters as an effect.
It is certainly more dramatic.
Mixing, it's very dramatic. And in terms of mixing, it's like taking a sledgehammer to something. It does a really radical change to a sound. And I think a notch filter might be necessary if there's some really difficult frequency that you can't correct easily otherwise. It's something you want to use very carefully and surgically, because it can cause problems if you overdo. You know, I mean, you were talking about phase before,
right?
And you know how, you know, filters and phase and so on, and similar stuff happens when you're, you know, notching out in the mids, and you can upset the balance, so to speak. I mean, I think, yeah, I would say, like, if you're worried about like fixing your mix, like a notch filter is probably going to be too much.
Yeah,
it's too extreme.
It's it's definitely too extreme.
Right,
It's
but
all
if you're
about
doing
drama.
like sound design and you're being creative and you want to make a cool sweep or a weird phasey filtery effect to a sound creatively, then that's a whole nother story. There's no rule there.
John
Just go ahead
Kingston
and do
III says for feedback, especially on stage monitors, maybe.
Well, that's the kind of thing where it's like got a definite specific technical use. Is if your room's ringing at, you know, 100 something hertz, and you can measure that with an analyzer, then you can go in and notch that out of your PA system, and it cuts down the feedback. But I got to say though, that opens up a can of worms, because what'll happen is you'll notch one frequency and another one will pop up, and you notch that frequency and another one.
It's like whack-a-mole
because of all these different phase shifts and weird things that happen with audio in an acoustic space. So it's something to be really careful with.
All right, so that's some of the patterns explained. I mean, we do have short time. I wish we had. Can we stream for 2 hours or 3 hours max? Or we
just
are we
keep
locked
going.
in?
Don't stop. Who said you have to stop at 2 o'clock?
Max told me. Max is thinking about it. I could see that. All right, let's see what the people are talking about in the chat. No, you can actually be entered once. Okay, this is what Thomas is saying, but let's see. Any resonant component has an effect on phase, but that is deeper electronic theory in audio engineering context. The definitions are simpler. Okay,
I'd agree with that.
I would agree as well. Okay, let's talk a little bit about something else here. I wanted to talk about. Whoa, that's really loud. Let's get that.
Damn,
down.
Abe.
I'm sorry. So, I have a loop here which has and let's get a fresh sort of thing going on here. We have a loop which is dealing with EQ in a regular mode. So let me get the other EQ in here, because the other EQ is going to be the one that I need. But basically, I wanted to talk about something called mid-side modes. And the mid-side mode is, I teach a lot of the mixing and mastering classes. Max is dancing. And I find it pretty surprising that a lot of people don't know or haven't even bothered to figure out what mid-side EQ is all about. And I wanted to maybe hold on. It's a little tough here managing everything from the point of having you wouldn't believe. You guys can't see all the windows I have here, but I have a gazillion windows in here. Let's try this again. I just wanted to bring up an EQ, and I'm having trouble. So EQ.
Is this like a little point against the Bitwig interface that you're trying so hard to find a search?
No, you know what it is? It's a point against me not having a second monitor.
Oh yeah, I see. It's screen real estate is limited.
Yeah, so I'm having to move around all these windows to get things going.
Gotcha.
So yeah, here we have our other EQ. So maybe let's talk a little bit about what mid and side are in an EQ. So mid and side in EQ are actually. Hold on, let me stop the playback. So mid and side, there are modes that you can enter with an EQ, which will allow you to process the information that you have separately, meaning that we're usually listening to two channels. We're usually listening to the left and the right channel, right? The left and the right channel have exclusive information in it. Sometimes when we have the same information coming out of it, let's say a kick drum that's coming out of both sides, it's in the center, right, the pan center, and everything, both sides, left and right, are playing that equally at the same time. Well, when that happens, we have a situation where we hear the sound, and it seems to come from what we might call the phantom center, where there's no center speaker, but it feels like it's coming from the center, right? Well, in that case, we process it with a regular EQ that's processing in stereo mode, meaning that things are being worked in equally. Left and right are getting are being either filtered, or EQ is being applied to the both left and right channel equally. Now, mid-side mode is tricky. Now, there's another mode, left-right mode, where you could just do right versus left, and that's something that's simple enough to understand. But mid-side mode can be tricky to understand. Mid-side mode is when you have information on. You have two speakers, right? You have two channels. Information that comes out of this that doesn't come out of this. Whatever comes out of here that doesn't come out of here is considered to be information that's on the side. So it's information that's exclusive to one side or another. Information that's on both at the same time, like in a kick drum that's coming at you at the same time on both channels, that would be mid. And something like a cowbell on this side and a shaker on that side would be the stuff that's inside. Now you might say, but what if it's coming, what if I pan it slightly to the side and it's coming a little bit from one side and less from the other side? Well, it's about how much amplitude is extra on one side that gets counted, and that becomes the side information for that. Did I miss something, John, on that?
Well, no. I mean, I I think you're trying to explain this in like a not crazy technical way. Like you're
Yeah, I'm
not
trying to
talking
make
about
it, you know,
the
layman's
math
term.
of the phase differences. It's more like how it sounds. And that's pretty much correct. Like there's some information in the stereo signal that's only coming in on the sides.
Right.
And there's some information that's coming in equally on both, which are the mids. And that's essentially like only mono or only stereo. You can look at it that way. I know it's confusing. When I first learned about it, I thought MS was mono stereo, but no, it's mid side. It's technically a different description of what's going on. But for purposes of mixing and listening and just making sounds, without getting crazy complicated with it, you can think of it, I think, as if you have mid side in an EQ and you have it set to only modify the sides, you're going to be affecting the stereo image more, and then when you're working on the mids, you're going to be affecting the mono part of the signal more, right? Is that kind of
well, when you're working in the mids, instead of saying mono, because maybe it's something
because it is confusing. It's good that we're trying to break this down in front of everybody, because I'm sure
I like to do it hands, 2 channels
confusion,
2 channels, right? If you have 2 channels and 1 channel, right, and they in like the same, like the kick drum, like that. Like, come on, Max, put your hands up. If you have a kick drum that's coming up like that at you together at the same time out of both channels, that we can call it mid, because it's information that is not exclusive to each side. It's the same on both sides. But information that is exclusive on one side versus the other, like let's say a clap that's coming from over there, that's going to be on that side. If it comes down to just a panning situation, whatever the amplitude is more, say if there's more amplitude on that side than on this side, then that bit of amplitude that's on that side becomes part of the side quotient. So it's really about 2 channels, right? And how you can approach treating the information that's coming out of those 2 channels. And why is this important? What are the applications for this? Well,
let's hear it.
Well, there's a couple. Well, maybe let's say you have something like this loop, and it's really funny. This EQ in Bitwig just came out. It's the newest EQ, and I couldn't find mid-side mode in it. And I looked in the maybe you saw me looking at the help part of it, and there is no mid-side mode in it. There's another mid-side device that you can get going with this. But in Ableton's EQ or in Logic's EQ, you'll have a mid-side mode, and the mid-side mode will allow you to access this immediately. Now, let's say you have a loop like the one that I was playing here, which is very, it has some stereo in it. And I could tell because the faders left and right are doing a little bit of a different thing. But I want to emphasize that. Well, I could take a high shelf and in side mode and just bring up all the high side stuff, which now will bring that and make it a little more hyper stereo. Like, whoa, I'm hearing the highs that are on the side a little more inside of this loop. So it's a way to enhance stereo that's there already. Another big application for it, especially in mixing, is that you want to take, if you have bass information, like bass lines or kick drums or whatever, and you have stuff that's definitely in the sub area, like let's say 150 hertz and below, you want to be able to take a side EQ, right, and roll off all of the sides information on the very low part of it, because you want to be able to get rid of any sub stereo information, because sub stereo information could give you all these headaches with phase cancellations later on. So it's typical in a mixing job that you take any element that has bass in it, and even on the master when you're mastering it, and you roll off the low end with the side mid side EQ, which is in side mode, to take away all the side information. And so that's one thing that is very important about using a mid side EQ. All right, let me just look at the chat. We're running out of time. This is unfortunate, but we are. Let's see. Which DAW is this? Bitwig. Yes. Thank you, Max, for letting them know. Linear phase EQ units further confused in the understanding. Okay, let me talk about linear phase for a second. We started this whole thing by I showed you how a filter can have consequences on a correlated material on another track inside of your DAW, right? But linear phase is a mode where you can, with things like Fab Filter, will have where you can actually mitigate that. Well, the problem is that it adds latency to what you're doing. So it's a little annoying to use it because your moves kind of catch up with you as you move that linear phase EQ. But in those cases, you can use a filter, and if you're like trying to mold the low end and trying to use a low cut or a filter or a high cut filter just to kind of get things going, and you have that phase vortex there, which might affect another low element part that you might have in the mix. If you use linear phase EQ, you'll be able to mitigate that, and you won't have a problem at all. However, it does add latency to the whole thing, and not all EQs have it. Only fancy EQs like the Fab Filter EQ, Pro Q3, I guess, and Pro Q2 would have that going on. Anyway, we have gone over time, or it's just about that time to say goodbye. It's kind of sad, but it's true. I want to thank my friends Max and John for just popping in today. And the same way we did it today, I'm going to make it available in the future. So maybe you guys in the chat want to just come in and show up and maybe ask a question and talk to us. I really want to make this a visit with you guys, a weekly kind of just like sit down conversation that we all can just have a powwow about what's going on in music and production and all that. All right. With that said, I think it's time to kind of end this show. And thank you once again, everybody, for coming and visiting with us. Anything you want to say, Max, before you go about 343? Your mic is off, Max. Okay. All right. So no, Max. Max, maybe you could sign language it. John, do you want to take over and tell us what 343 is all about? Do your little 343 pitch.
Well, yeah, I mean, you did it earlier. I think, those of you who are joining us on a regular basis know the story, but for the few of you out there who are new, welcome. And just to say 343 Labs again is a school. We as instructors, in addition to teaching our classes, we enjoy doing these streams and sharing what we do with a wider audience and kind of growing our community on a global scale now. And I really enjoy doing this. Like once a week on Saturday, I've got my techno hour or so, and we had a really great visit with Christian Smith last time.
How did that
Abe,
go?
it went great, and I think we had, those are some of the best numbers we did in terms of viewers, and the response we got was really good. And so, I like that we're sort of doing more interactive, having guests, having discussions. I think that, while sometimes, we'll keep it sort of content focused and more sort of tutorial and going over technique focused, and other times having this sort of opened up and having a dialogue is really valuable as well. So, yeah, thanks for having us on.
All right. Okay, guys, I'm going to just say goodbye. And Max, thanks again, even though we can't hear you. Thanks again for hanging out. And I'll talk to you guys next week, Friday at 1 o'clock.